हेलो एवरीवन एंड वेलकम टू माय चैनल। और आज काफ़ी टाइम के बाद आई एम बैक अगेन विद अनदर वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग एंड इम्पॉर्टेंट वीडियो जो बनाई गई है एमए इंग्लिश के स्टूडेंट्स के लिए। सो विदाउट एनी फर्दर डिले लेट्स जंप इनटू द टॉपिक एंड एक्सप्लोर व्हाट दिस वीडियो इज ऑल अबाउट। So yes, you must have all guessed it right. The topic we are going to discuss today, it is from paper 1 literary movement 2, that is meant for semester 2. I am going to cover unit 5. The title of this unit is Debating Periodization in History, and we are going to discuss the essay The Disciplinary Rationale for Periodization and a Forgotten Challenge to It, written by Ted Underwood. So this is what we are going to discuss today, and let's see what Ted Underwood has in store for us to say. So Ted Underwood's The Disciplinary Rationale for Periodization and a Forgotten Challenge to It. So first of all, it's important to know something about the author. So Ted Underwood, definitely he is a teacher, so definitely पहले Illinois University campus की बात हो रही थी, और I have extracted this information about the author from this website that's given under his picture. So he's a professor and associate dean for academic affairs, PhD in English at Cornell University. And see, this is from where the information has been extracted. His research areas are written here, and he has authored 3 books. He has written 3 books so far. First is Distant Horizons, then Why Literary Periods Mattered, and The Work of the Sun. So these are the 3 important books that Ted Underwood has written. So I even got this information available on the website. He tells about himself, he remarks about himself that I am specially interested in applying machine learning to large digital collections. I recently finished a book about new perspective opened up by large digital libraries called Distant Horizon, Digital Evidence and Literary Change. So he's the man of today's world. He knows the world is changing. पता है उसको दुनिया चेंज हो रही है. Everything is getting online, digital libraries है, and how all these facilities help in more research works, help in giving different perspective to the ongoing research project. So he is the man of today's world, and he is not hesitating in actually admitting that he's interested in applying machine learning to large digital collections. कि मेजॉरिटी में हम ऐसे ही बात करते हैं इंग्लिश रोमांटिसिज्म, एलिजाबेथन ड्रामा, विक्टोरियन कॉम्प्रोमाइज. क्यों ज़रूरी हैं ये सारी चीज़ें? अगर सिंपल भाषा में हम बात करें तो अगर सारे स्टूडेंट्स को एक ही क्लास में डाल दिया जाए या उनको बिना बताए एक ही क्वेश्चन पेपर डाल दिया जाए तो हाउ टफ इट वुड बी टू हैंडल. तो इसलिए क्लासिफिकेशन जैसे स्कूल्स में होती है, कॉलेजेस में होती है, करिकुलम डिवाइडेड है, क्लासेस डिवाइडेड हैं. आपको पता है आपने किस पे कॉन्सेंट्रेट करना है, कितना पढ़ना है, कितने पेपर में पूछा जाएगा. तो पीरियडाइजेशन हर जगह पे ही इम्पॉर्टेंट है. कैटेगराइज करना, चीज़ों को क्लासिफिकेशन करनी इम्पॉर्टेंट है. अगर हम दिन को भी डिवाइड ना करें, मॉर्निंग में ब्रेकफास्ट लेना है, दोपहर में लंच लेना है, शाम को डिनर स्नैक्स टी लेनी है और रात को डिनर लेना है, आई गेस अगर ये नेम्स डिफरेंट लेबल्स ना दिए हो तो थिंग्स वुड बी अ chaos. तो यहाँ पे यही बात कर रहे हैं वो कि वाई द लिटरेरी हिस्ट्री इज डिवाइडेड एंड वाई इट इज इम्पॉर्टेंट. तो जब हम लिटरेरी हिस्ट्री की डिवीजन की बात कर रहे हैं तो यहाँ बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है ये जानना व्हाट इज पीरियडाइजेशन. हम जिस पे बहस कर रहे हैं, जिस मुद्दे को लेके हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, व्हाट इज इट? सो पीरियडाइजेशन इट्स सिंपली इट्स द dividing the history into different periods for the sake of convenient study, analysis and comparison. तो जब हम कंपेयर करेंगे पोइट्री इन द एज ऑफ चॉसर एंड ड्रामा इन द एज ऑफ शेक्सपियर, these are two different genres which we are going to discuss under 2 different titles. तो इनको डिवाइड भी कैसे करना होता है? एट टाइम्स जो आपका पीरियड है, that is divided on the basis, that is labeled on the basis of general trends in that age, sometimes or after the name of or in the name of the author who's dominating in that age, and sometimes it is named after the trend in literary scenario. तो अलग अलग तरीके से इन एजेस के, इन पीरियड्स के नेम्स जो हैं सॉरी वो रखे जाते हैं. So Ted Underwood here tells us that this concept of periodization remained an important aspect in learning about history of literature. तो काफी टाइम से ही ये जो एक ग्रिड है, टाइम पीरियड्स का एक टेबल है, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रहा है. But in 20th century, a change was seen in English literary curriculum. तो 20th century में आके एक चेंज देखा गया. जो English literary curriculum था उसमें हुआ क्या, different departments in universities, they started teaching more of American literature and post-colonial literature. And this gave way to new criticism as well as to post-structuralism. तो नई चीजें उभर के सामने आई, उनमें लेटेस्ट जो थी that was American literature, post-colonial literature. अब जब ये चीजें आई तो कहीं ना कहीं थर्ड वर्ल्ड लिटरेचर की बात हुई कि कॉलोनीज हैं, जैसे ब्रिटेन ने इंडिया के ऊपर रूल किया. इंडिया वॉज अ कॉलोनी, बट नाउ व्हेन इंडिया गॉट इंडिपेंडेंस, उसके बाद इंडियन राइटर्स ने अपने हिसाब से लिखना शुरू किया, एंड दे टॉक्ड ऑफ दोज थिंग्स विच वर नॉट आर्टिकुलेटेड इन लिटरेचर. पहले उनके बारे में बात नहीं हुई थी. तो जब ये सारी चीजें सामने आई तो डेफिनेटली जब नई बुक्स आती हैं तो नया क्रिटिसिज्म भी, उनकी इवेल्युएशन भी जरूर होगी. तो दिस गेव बर्थ टू न्यू क्रिटिसिज्म एंड पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म, जो 20th सेंचुरी की ही यू कैन से इमर्ज होने वाली एस्पेक्ट्स, लिटरेरी थ्योरी क्रिटिसिज्म के पॉइंट्स हैं. तो when we are talking of 20th century, it means we are talking of 1900 something. So new criticism और post structuralism, ये दोनों ही aspects जो थे ये 1900 almost 50s 60s में ये चीजें आ गई थी, and 20s से almost ये शुरू हो गया था, 1920 से. New criticism में क्या था, that they no longer looked for the author and his intention. The main focus was given to the text. और post structuralism में भी ऐसे ही एक टेक्स्ट को, लैंग्वेज को स्ट्रक्चर देखा गया, लैंग्वेज को एज अ स्ट्रक्चर देखा गया. तो ये दोनों चीजें, दोनों एस्पेक्ट्स क्रिटिसिज्म के या लिटरेरी थ्योरी के, ये 20th सेंचुरी में सामने आए. बट चाहे नई इवेलुएटिव टेक्निक्स आ भी गई, but the important thing was that the basic grid and network of organization of literary history into periods, it remained the same as it was. So there was no change in periodization. आप बुक्स के एनालिसिस में डिफरेंस ला सकते हो, जैसे शुरू में ऑथर की इंटेंशन मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट मानी जाती थी हिस्टोरिकल बायोग्राफिकल में, फिर फोकस टेक्स्ट पे आ गया, बट उसके बाद रीडर रिस्पॉन्स थ्योरी आई है, जिसमें जो मेन फोकस है दैट शिफ्टेड फ्रॉम द ऑथर एंड द टेक्स्ट टू द रीडर, दैट इट इज द रीडर हु गिव्स न्यू मीनिंग्स टू द टेक्स्ट, एंड देयर कैन नॉट बी एन एब्सोल्यूट मीनिंग टू द टेक्स्ट. जो भी पढ़ेगा उसको अपने हिसाब से इंटरप्रेट करेगा. द वे आई एम इंटरप्रेटिंग द एसे इन माई वे, जैसे मैंने पढ़ा, मुझे ये चीजें मेन फोकस में लगी, विच आई एम डिस्कसिंग विद यू. हो सकता है अगर आपने पढ़ा हो या किसी और ने आपको पढ़ाया हो, कुछ और पॉइंट्स जो हैं वो लाइमलाइट में लाए गए हों. सो दिस इज क्वाइट पॉसिबल. दिस इज लिटरेचर. एवरी एस्पेक्ट इज important and is true, provided you are giving a proof for that. So in this essay, he is also trying to establish relationship between literature and history. Yes, these two cannot be separated. When we are going to talk of literature, definitely we are going to talk of the authors and their written books, and we are indirectly referring to history. And when we pick up history, हो नहीं सकता कि हम बहुत सारी और बातें करें, and we do not include the literary aspect into the history. So he compares the previous time with the present. When he talks of past, he says that there had been debates on periods. But now he is talking of the present scenario. He tells us that theories of genres, they are more important. Theories, right? This criticism kind of thing, like new criticism, post-structuralism. So theories are more important than chronology. Chronology simply means the sequence in time. That first of all, we have to discuss if take example that you have to talk of the time in a day, you will definitely begin it with the morning, then afternoon, then evening, and then night. This is chronology following the sequence. So periodization has fulfilled certain functions. So how periodization has been very important, because we compare one age to another and find research gaps. That's what periodization gives us. And sometimes study of historical events is made easy with periods. अगर periods में divide ना किया हो तो हम शायद history के events को भी find out करने में chaos create हो जाए, हम confuse हो जाएं. So periods give us a basic and streamlined criteria to discuss periods and also to discuss historical events. So then there has been a mention of comparative literature. What is comparative literature? When we compare to authors, when we compare to genres, when we compare to periods, when we compare to or more themes. So comparative literature में comparison होगा. It is really easy. I have heard that some of the students are finding it really tough. So according to Gayatri Spivak, comparative literature is the result of European intellectuals, and the concept of comparative literature for this the concept of comparative literature or this comparative project challenged periodization in two different ways. So how periodization is challenging the periods in two different ways, we have to see this. So firstly, it tends to reduce the importance given to the national context, such as Elizabethan and Victorian. तो दो challenges जो concept of comparative literature ने periodization के लिए pose किए हैं, या how periodization is challenged. अब तक तो हम पढ़ रहे थे कि periodization is very important. अगर हम periodization को नहीं follow करते हैं, there would be chaos in analysis. So यहाँ पे comparative literature ने दो challenges जो हैं periodization को किए हैं, या दो challenges हैं जो आगे रखे गए हैं थ्रू कंपैरेटिव लिटरेचर. फर्स्ट है कि कंपैरेटिव लिटरेचर ने ये जो नेशनल कॉन्टेक्स्ट है ना, एलिजाबेथन लिटरेचर और एलिजाबेथन ड्रामा और विक्टोरियन नॉवल, विक्टोरियन एज, तो ये नेशनल कॉन्टेक्स्ट को इसने समहाउ इनकी इंपॉर्टेंस को रिड्यूस किया. व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग ऑफ कंपैरेटिव लिटरेचर, इट इज बियॉन्ड द बाउंड्रीज ऑफ वन नेशन और वन रीजन. Secondly, जो theories हैं comparative literature की, these have explained how literature is a continuous process and its development too. तो ये दो challenges हैं जो यहाँ टेड अंडरवुड periodization के लिए कर रहा है. periodization के जो context में वो दो challenges आगे रख रहा है, वो ये है through comparative literature. एक की periodization को challenge किया है कि comparative literature ने national context को, उसकी importance को reduce कर दिया है, और दूसरा जो theories हैं कंपैरेटिव लिटरेचर की, उन्होंने एक्सप्लेन किया है कि लिटरेचर एक कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस है. यू कैन नॉट पुट इट इनटू डिफरेंट सेगमेंट्स व्हेन इट इज अ कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस. ये चल रहा है आगे, और इसकी डेवलपमेंट भी. और यहाँ पे कंपेरिस्ट जो हैं, थेरिस्ट्स ऑफ कंपैरेटिव लिटरेचर और कंपेरिस्ट्स, दे हैव आल्सो एम्फेसाइज्ड, उन्होंने ये एम्फेसाइज किया है, ये फोकस किया है कि जो मेन फोकस है, that should be on the movements instead of periods. That movements are more convenient to deal with instead of periods. Periods काफी ज़्यादा हैं, तो इनसे कहीं better है कि आप periods की बजाय movements पे concentrate करो. Movements जो आपके paper 1 की different units थी. Paper 1 unit like semester 1 में जो थी, जैसे first of all what is literary movement, फिर classicism, neoclassicism, classicism, Renaissance, neoclassicism, and romanticism. So these were the movements. Ted Underwood has mentioned different names and scholars, obviously names of different scholars in his essay, to prove his point and to give their point of view. So let's see what H.M. Posnet has to say in this regard. This scholar says that genres like epics, dramatic and lyrical models cannot be called universal categories. So what is universal? That is applicable to all. But when we talk of epics, there are the number is less. For example, in India, we have two great epics. इनको हिंदी में काव्य संग्रह बोलते हैं. For example, we have Ramayana and Mahabharata. In English, we have Paradise Lost. Similarly, in Greek literature, we have 2-3 epics written by Homer, right? Iliad and Odyssey. So these are the different genres, different style of writing, which Posnet says cannot be called universal. Then he mentions that literature from China and India has also come up, and different social groups का expansion हुआ है. So he is paying considerable attention to the literature written in China and India. He says that's that different. It's not that, it is that only. So that different social groups have different ways of expression. If somebody is writing from China, definitely he will write differently. The main themes he would deal with are going to be definitely different, and a person writing in India is going to write from a different perspective. For example, अगर कोई ब्रिटिशर लिखेगा तो पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू लिखने का राइटिंग का डिफरेंट होगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, वॉट एवर दे हैव रिटन, दे हैव शोन देमसेल्व्स ऑन अ सिविलाइजिंग मिशन, कि इंडिया में वो सिविलाइज करने आए थे, हम बहुत अनसिविलाइज्ड थे, and that's how they are telling us how to be a civilized human being, right? But if we take an Indian context, if we pick up a book written by an Indian, they will say that they were exploited. So two different perspectives of one aspect of one situation. That's what Posnet is telling us, that different social groups have different ways of expression. He also challenges periodization. So here, once again, after comparative literature, one challenge to periodization is again posed. He does it by saying that literature is a transformation. Literature is a transformation from pre-literate folklore to the present. So the concept of periodization does not arise. तो ये हमें ये कह रहे हैं कि लिटरेचर एक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन है. पहले रिटन में नहीं होता था, प्री लिटरेट फोकलोर होता था. प्री लिटरेट फोकलोर, एक जनरेशन से अगली जनरेशन तक ओरल ट्रेडिशन से लिटरेचर जो है वो पास हो जाएगा. लोग पढ़े लिखे नहीं थे, प्री लिटरेट, लिटरेट नहीं थे. और आज का, जब we are literate, we have written, we have literature in black and white and printing presses there. So whole of the literature can be divided into these two categories: pre-literate folklore and present literature. So he says that concept of periodization does not even arise. Similarly, Alastair Mackenzie has a different thing to say. He represents the comparative literature as the most scientific one, and he has renamed literary study as literatology. He divides literature into, again, he's not paying attention to the periods, he's dividing literature into these categories: primitive, barbaric, autocratic, and democratic. We have another scholar in the essay, Irving Babbitt. He's a scholar of comparative literature. What he says, and his books, first of all, we need to know this, that his books were a reaction against the specialization and professionalization of literary studies. So he was against it. And the main focus of his, whatever he says, his expression, he is not paying attention. Uska focus nahi hai on defining literary movements like classicism, romanticism, or different periods. He's not. No, there is nothing like that. His main focus is not on defining literary movements or literary periods. For him, the whole essence of comparative literature is continuity and influence. तो वो सिर्फ continuity की बात कर रहा है, बाकी comparative theorists की तरह, कि there is continuity and influence. The claim of continuity again was, पीछे हम बात already कर चुके हैं, it was unsuccessful attempt to challenge periodization. So periodization को यहाँ भी challenge करना जो था, थोड़ा सा कहीं ना कहीं unsuccessful रहा. Periodization as it is. ये तो है कि periodization से आप अपना ध्यान थोड़ी देर के लिए हटा लो. But if you will say कि periodization को हम बिल्कुल rule out कर दें, ये हो सकता है कि periods की बजाय आप थोड़ी major categories पे focus कर लो, आप movements पे focus कर लो, आप थोड़ा सा इसको decentralize कर सकते हैं, but you cannot ignore periodization altogether. Then there came philology. What is philology? It is basically the historical and structural development of language. It again got popular in 19th century. So the studies of language and literature got fused together in single department. तो पहले क्या था, even if we look at Indian situation, जब हम we were under the British rule during the colonial India, what was there? There was a concept, there was a proposal that everything should be taught to us in English medium. So medium of instruction used to be English. That was the proposal. Then all of a sudden, it got converted into a subject. Now we have two things in India. One is English as a subject and one is English as medium of instruction, right? So this is how this language is English and literature is your subject. So these two got together in one department. But this fusion gave again rise to the new conflict. अब वो क्या था, जो language के हैं experts, they are philologists, और जो literature के हैं, they are critics. So अब कौन, मतलब किसकी बात मानी जाएगी, subject के experts की या language के experts की? So this fusion gave a new conflict, rise to a new conflict that was between literary critics and philologists. So one way to express this emphasis in curriculum was to reorient and redesign the courses around the changes. तो इस conflict को rule out करने के लिए the only way left was कि जो curriculum है उसको reorient किया जाए, उसको redesign किया जाए, वो दोबारा से सामने लोगों के रखा जाए, scholars के सामने रखा जाए, और अब इसका main focus किसके आसपास हो? That should be around the changes, the transitions, how one movement or period got changed into, how one trend got changed into another one. कि पहले focus है style पे, form पे, neoclassicism पे. They are too much worried about the rules and regulations of writing, and neoclassicism is all about inane phraseology and writing styles. Then how they gave a free play to imagination in romanticism. So things got changed. This transition from hard and fast rules to free rules or no rules. That's what we are going to discuss here, or we are focusing here. So in this trial, periodization is not erased but slightly decentered. तो अभी भी periodization बिल्कुल rule out नहीं हुई इन इस concept में भी आके, philology के अंदर भी, या जब ये दोनों चीजें लैंग्वेज और लिटरेचर कंबाइन भी हुए और बाद में इनका एक सॉल्यूशन भी निकाला गया कि करिकुलम को रीडिजाइन और रीओरिएंट कर दिया जाए, periodization was not at all erased altogether. So it's important to mention that newly emerged literary departments, they did not ignore historical importance of the text. It is very important and we all know it. Catalogs in the libraries show that literature is important, and definitely all the scholars of PhD research, they need to follow. Even if I have to write a research paper, I need to go back 20 years back into the history and take out how this concept got introduced, how many works or how much research has been conducted on that particular topic. So I cannot ignore history at all. Various movements present historical events and movements. So अलग-अलग movements ने काफी historical events को भी वो movements बयान करती हैं. For example, French Revolution. It is a very important historical and political event. But yes, it has influenced English Romanticism. We cannot ignore it. Then Russian Revolution, Russian formalism. There are many things, many such events which have, which had and which are influencing literature. Then we have another scholar, Norman Forrester. He emphasized the importance of literary history. Literary history presents literature as a whole, regardless of differences and boundaries. So he favored literary history, that literary history is above, is far above, far beyond differences and boundaries. So literature, according to him, is a developing organism. Organism जैसे हम हैं, we are human beings जो हैं, या कोई भी आप जीव जंतु कह लो, organism. So beauty of wholeness will get lost if we only focus on one part. अगर आप एक organism है, मान लो एक इंसान ही है, अगर आप फोकस करोगे कि बस उसका हाथ, एक हाथ बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है, राइट, जिससे वो लिखता है, बस उसी पे सारा फोकस है, तो भाई दिमाग भी यूज करता है, वो देखने के लिए आंखें भी यूज कर रहा है, वो अपनी सेंसेस को भी यूज कर रहा है उस टॉपिक को ऑब्जर्व करने के लिए, तो वी कैन नॉट. अगर हम किसी एक पार्ट को फोकस करेंगे तो जो ब्यूटी है, होलनेस है, उसका जो completeness है, that will get destroyed. Literature should be studied for its civilizing properties. Yes, definitely literature makes us civilized. जब हम पुरानी गलतियों को देखते हैं, हम बड़ा कुछ लिटरेचर से बहुत कुछ सीखते भी हैं. So it is known for its civilizing properties and it should not be judged as an object of knowledge only. सिर्फ हमें लिटरेचर नॉलेज नहीं देता. लिटरेचर is a vehicle of culture. Literature carries cultural materialism in the form of books. So literature is a whole way of life. जैसे हम culture को कहते हैं whole way of life, literature too reflects our life, our social life. So René Wellick's views are also important to be kept in mind and to discuss here. He focuses on the concept of periodization even for projects like comparative literature. So comparative literature ने एक चैलेंज दिया है, एक चैलेंज पोज किया था पीरियडाइजेशन के लिए. रेने वेलिक कह रहा है कि कंपैरेटिव लिटरेचर के लिए भी पीरियडाइजेशन इज इंपॉर्टेंट. यू कैन नॉट कंपेयर टू थिंग्स without considering the periods. He says that the movements are very important and movements vary from one country to another. For example, वो example दे रहे हैं European romanticism की, that European romanticism has many unromantic aspects and romanticism meant different things to different countries. ये भी आपको याद रखना होगा. कुछ countries में it was just a slight change from the neoclassical writings to the, you know, and it was a free reign, free hand was given to the writers. But in some, it was a complete break from the previous rules. So, कहीं थोड़ा ज़्यादा, कहीं थोड़ा कम. And romanticism doesn't mean that everybody was writing about nature. Everybody was breaking the rules. There were some who followed certain rules. So, the romantic period had some unromantic stuff, unromantic aspects in it. सबने ही नेचर के बारे में नहीं लिखा, सबने ही नेचुरल ऑब्जेक्ट्स के बारे में नहीं लिखा, सबने ही इमेजिनेशन के बेसिस पे नहीं लिखा. देयर वर सर्टेन एक्सेप्शंस. कुछ ने सोशल मुद्दों को जरूर कैरी किया, जैसे विलियम ब्लेक ने चिमनी स्वीपर लिख के, he has touched upon a very major social issue of child labor and child exploitation in his poems rather, I should say. So on the other hand, Lovejoy, he described romanticism as a collection of ideas and aesthetic emotions. So Lovejoy has discussed romanticism as collection of aesthetic emotions, आपके aesthetic emotions, and their debate is really famous. Debate between Wellick and Lovejoy is really famous. He says that romanticism has certain unromantic things, and he says romanticism is all about aesthetic emotions and collection of ideas. So René Wellick reaffirms the significance of periodization as the only way to study literary history. So Ted Underwood also poses a question in the essay. He simply asks that whether mere a stamp of PhD on a person makes him a scholar or not. So that's the question. जैसे हम कह देते हैं कि क्या B.Ed करने से हमें पढ़ाना आ जाएगा? Whether we'll be a teacher just after doing one degree, आपका कोई experience, आपका कोई खुद की motivation, dedication is not required, right? So that's actually a question कि क्या आप जैसे अगर मैंने हफ्ते की cooking classes लगा ली, whether I'll be a very good cook? No, unless until I put my own effort into it. I am not a B.Ed, right? I haven't like studied. I don't have this degree, but still, does it mean that I don't know how to teach? So that's a question, very important question that he has pointed out here in the essay. Mark Parker also observes that now there's another scholar, another name, René Wellick, आप पढ़ चुके हो जिन्होंने किया है कि दोबारा से reaffirm करा है कि periodization important है. तो Mark Parker क्या कह रहे हैं? He observes that various discussions on the concept of periodization give birth to strange contradictions. वो साफ साफ बड़ी practical सी बात कर रहे हैं Parker. वो कह रहे हैं कि जितना आप पीरियडाइजेशन के कॉन्सेप्ट को डिस्कस कर लोगे उतनी ही ज्यादा स्ट्रेंज कॉन्ट्रडिक्शंस जो हैं वो सामने आएंगी. And Rene Wellick, he says, or Reen Wellick भी बोलते हैं इनको, argues that why I call time and again I call him Rene, just to make you sure that you keep the spellings in your mind while writing. So Rene Wellick or Reen Wellick argues that literature periods, ये जो literary periods हैं या जो literature periods in literature, they are necessary. He understands periods as evaluative categories, that they help us in evaluation, जिनको हिंदी में हम मूल्यांकन बोलते हैं. Literary criticism का मतलब भी evaluation नहीं है, because we take into consideration all the aspects, negative and positives. So evaluative categories कह रहे हैं ये periods को. And to conclude, we can only say that without periodization, the literature will definitely be reduced to an area of some other discipline. कि अगर हम periodization यहाँ से इग्नोर कर देंगे, निकाल देंगे, तो टेड अंडरवुड का यही मानना है, एंड आई थिंक वी ऑल वुड एग्री विद हिम, कि अगर हम पीरियडाइजेशन लिटरेचर में से निकाल देंगे, लिटरेचर विल बी रिड्यूस्ड टू एन एरिया ऑफ सम अदर डिसिप्लिन. अदर डिसिप्लिन मीन्स अदर सब्जेक्ट, किसी और सब्जेक्ट का एक छोटा सा पार्ट बन के रह जाएगा. इट कैन बी इट कैन गॉट मर्ज्ड इनटू हिस्ट्री और इन सोशियोलॉजी और इन पॉलिटिकल साइंस, इन एनी अदर सब्जेक्ट. ये एक छोटा सा एरिया बन के रह जाएगा. और अगर आप इग्नोर कर रहे हो पीरियडाइजेशन को, तो इससे क्या होगा? इट मीन्स यू आर रिड्यूसिंग कल्चर टू अ मियर हिस्टोरिकल एक्सप्लेनेशन. इसका मतलब आप कल्चर को कल्चर नहीं रहने दोगे, कल्चर को भी एक हिस्टोरिकल एक्सप्लेनेशन, कि एक छोटा सा इवेंट आया था, आपने बता दिया कि हाँ उस टाइम पे ऐसे कपड़े पहनते ऐसे थे, ऐसा खाना पीना था, एंड इट वुड बी अ पार्ट ऑफ हिस्टोरिकल एक्सप्लेनेशन. सो पीरियडाइजेशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. अगर हम इसको इग्नोर करते हैं तो लिटरेचर नहीं रहेगा, वो किसी और सब्जेक्ट का छोटा सा पार्ट बन जाएगा, और कल्चर नहीं रहेगा, वो एक हिस्टोरिकल एक्सप्लेनेशन बन जाएगा. एंड दैट इज ऑल अबाउट Underwood's essay. In case you find this video helpful, so do not forget to subscribe so that whenever I upload a video, you are notified about it. And after pressing this subscription lene ke baad, don't forget to press this bell icon so that you are notified whenever any video is uploaded on the channel. And if you have any query, you want to contact me, I'm really sorry I cannot give my phone number here, but this is the email that can be used to contact me. Thank you very much. Have a nice day and all the very best for your exams. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.